Hey everyone, it's the Koopa Man. So I got a comment on a previous video that I'd like to talk about. It's this one, from 100 Toon Link on the video Lower Standards of Modern Gaming. I'll read it out. Interesting video, but do you think we will have another video game crash or a crash that will affect AAA gaming? While I did leave a reply, I think a video might be a bit more appropriate as it'll allow me to expand my thoughts far better. If you're watching this Toon Link, this one's for you. So let's get the elephant out of the room first and foremost. No. There will not be another video game crash like the 1983 crash. Firstly, because the industry has become far too global, for better or worse, to be utterly destroyed by a localized crash. What most people seem to forget is that the 83 crash was localized to the United States and Canada markets only, with video gaming carrying on as normal in Japan and Europe. Secondly, many of the AAA companies have changed hands so many times that they're effectively crash-proof, as they're technically no longer the same company every 5 or 10 years. Besides, predicting a crash in video games or comic books on end until it actually happens is kinda cringe. So where does that leave the future of video games? Well, while I don't necessarily see a crash, we are on the cusp of a transitionary period in the hobby, or as I like to call it, the last great console war. You may remember me at some point mentioning the sad state of Xbox and PlayStation as consoles the past few generations, but some things do bear repeating. Since the generation of the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360, the, quote, main consoles, those being the PlayStation and Xbox, have been becoming far and far less like consoles, dedicated gaming machines, and more like low-end computers / multimedia devices. This is especially true of the Xbox One if you remember its reveal at E3.
Ladies and gentlemen, introducing Xbox One.
TV experience. TV. TV and movies. TV. Xbox. Watch TV. 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 Watch TV. TV. TV and TV remote. TV experience. TV. 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 Sports TV. 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 Anybody? TV. TV and TV. 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 Xbox. Go home. TV.
Coupling this with the recent affordability of quality PCs and the entertainment focus of online-based services like movie streaming, to the point that now even televisions are becoming smart in order to connect to the internet for Netflix and its competitors, there's very little separating the big two from PCs now. Well, there is one difference. Proprietarity. Wait, that isn't a word? Well, it should be, because how else do you describe it? Xbox only works with Microsoft-branded discs, only has a Microsoft operating system, requires Microsoft-branded parts if you need replacement, and aside from third-party knockoffs, requires a Microsoft-branded controller. And before any ponies get into a masturbatory fury at all this being true about Xbox, remember that the same holds true for PlayStation as well. So that leaves only two options left for the console market. Either they need to focus on things that PC can't do, such as the Nintendo Switch when it first came out was the only video game system you could have that you could take with you on the go. Granted, very soon after the Steam Deck, which is technically a PC, did this as well, but that's a whole different story. Failing that, the only other option is, if you can't beat them, join them. For Microsoft, this would be easy. They started in computer software development, and for them, it'd be going back to their roots. For PlayStation, however, while Sony does have a brand of computers and laptops, it would not be as easy or as likely. The PlayStation brand was hemorrhaging money due to mismanagement for a while now, since the PS3 and PS Vita era at the very least. This is the primary reason that Sony as a whole moved the PlayStation division away from their Japanese headquarters to the United States, thinking that being closer to their biggest market for video games would improve their brand. Unfortunately, that headquarters was in the San Francisco Bay Area, and we all know how that ended. In fact, here's a video I made on that very subject. To make a long story short, however, and to get back on topic, I have severe doubts that PlayStation is long for this earth. That, of course, leaves Nintendo. The thing about Nintendo is they've always been sort of a wild card, at the very least since the era of the Wii. As such, it's hard to predict what they do. Out of the big three, they're the most likely to still be the last one standing, mostly because of the three, they're the only ones who have the ability to stand. This, however, would create a monopoly, which is never a good thing for business. Look what it did to Atari in the 70s, for an example. Could it be possible a new challenger would enter the console market to compete with Nintendo on that ground? Yeah, it's possible, but it's also just as likely Nintendo refocuses their market to put their games on PC and mobile. We see them experimenting with this already with stuff like Pokemon Go and Mario Kart Tour. It's not very likely, but it is very possible. With Nintendo, anything can happen, so it's hard to say one way or the other. As for the third-party developers that make games for the consoles, it'd just be business as usual. The only change you'd see is that they would primarily focus their teams on the PC versions, rather than having a secondary team develop a port as a secondary focus. A practice that still sadly goes on to this day, thanks to the shady practices and under-the-table deals that the console market kind of encourages. You might even see a number of them try to market their own PC launchers and markets. We already see this with Ubisoft Uplay, EA's Origin, Rockstar's launcher, and the Epic Games Store. Granted, these stores aren't very popular, or any good, but they do exist, and odds are, with how much of a Wild West frontier the PC market could become, we'd probably see a lot more of them. There is potential, however, that it would turn into marketplace wars that end up supplanting the console wars, especially if at some point one of them is actually not crap, or if GOG gets their shit together and starts selling cash option cards like Steam does. Seriously, CD Projekt Red, if it weren't for this one thing, I would switch over from Steam in a heartbeat. Oh, and before you say it, no, Black Sage D, Steam is not a monopoly. Nintendo is not a monopoly either. Just because these companies don't have every Coomer-bait game to ever exist doesn't make them a monopoly. I listed 5 reasons why they aren't, and I doubt I even scratched the surface, especially if we go down this marketplace wars route. Oh, and for the record, the Chinese Communist Party despises pornography, pornographers, and their consumers. So have fun with that. Anyway, this does lead to the elephant in the room. Exclusives. If Tencent Games taught us anything, it's that they aren't going away just because we all use PCs now. There is a very strong possibility that if the gaming market goes all in on PC like I think it will, there will still be exclusives, with the major launchers either cutting deals like the consoles do now, or companies locking their own games to their own exclusive marketplace launchers more frequently. The fact of the matter is exclusives as a practice, either the first-party kind or the really shitty underhanded kind, are not going away anytime soon. The upside to all of this is even with these exclusives, you no longer have to purchase exclusive and dedicated hardware just to play 1 or 2 games you might like on a certain branded system, which console gaming right now is doing incredibly often, which even the most staunch of peasants will freely admit. You will have the freedom to build your own PC power rig, which best suits your needs, without having to buy either Sony brand or Microsoft brand to play the Sony or Microsoft branded games. Even if a game is a marketplace exclusive, you can still play it on the same hardware. It's just a nuisance to get it on a different launcher and keeping your funds in order. If this was the only issue with the Epic Games Store, the hatred of it wouldn't be a thing. Though, if I listed all the problems with the Epic Games Store, we'd be here all day, so let me just wave a Chinese flag and call it a day. The downside to all of this, however, is that these marketplaces condition us to accept larger file sizes and no physical games. The former issue I talked about before in one of my previous videos, which I'll link here, but the latter issue is something that I could make a video on in the future. Stay tuned if I ever decide to do that. Though as long as there is a free market demand for physical games, eventually someone will come to fill that need. The market always comes through in the end. It's better to be positive about it than to be a doomer. Fact of the matter is, if you'll excuse how PC Master Race this sounds, is PC gaming is probably the future. You'll have a lot more individual choice in your ability to buy PC rigs from parts and assemble them yourself a la carte, as well in how you play your games with the ability to install and use mods. Does this mean consoles will completely go away? Like I said earlier, that's hard to tell with Nintendo still being in play, differentiating themselves from PCs, as well as the possibility of new ones coming out as well. They just need to prove they have a reason to exist. That doesn't necessarily mean it'll be the end of exclusives or fan wars, but it does mean that gaming becomes a fair bit more convenient. In the end, change is coming. It may be a good change or a bad one, but it is coming. Some will embrace it openly. Some will stubbornly cling to the past, and some will try to go down with the ship. This goes for companies as well as it does for gamers. In the end, though, time will tell how it plays out. The thing about changes like these is what came before is never fully gone. I mean, we still have arcades, there just aren't as many of them. And like arcades, consoles will still serve a purpose, just not on the main stage. So chin up. Don't be sad that it's over. Be glad that it happened. This has been the Koopa Man. Game on.